With a profound understanding of what the Zambian economy looks like at the moment, there is no excuse for these contestants to not clearly outline what their plan is for Zambia and the budget for 2025.
Zambia had gone beyond 100% in terms of the debt to GDP ratio. But I think it is key that we see what you're going to put forward. The candidate that deserves to win will actually walk away with the prize money.
My interest is around issues of debt.
We increase the GDP growth from the current 4.72% to 5.0%.
Madam Speaker, the mining sector remains the cornerstone of Zambia's economy.
Madam Speaker, Zambia's current external debt stands at $23.8 billion.
The judges have a huge task ahead of them now. They must decide who the top three are, but unfortunately in the process decide who the two are that are leaving us today.
Isaac, Divine, this is the end of the road for you.
Welcome to episode 4 of this season's edition of the People's Budget. This show is brought to you by the Center for Trade Policy and Development in partnership with the Tax Justice Network Africa. These organizations are working with a group of 10 young people. In the competition, we started with the top 10. The top 10 were given different tasks, and these tasks included them coming up with a budget that would speak to the demands of the local community. One of the tasks was specifically looking at ways in which we could improve revenue collection and resource mobilization from the tobacco taxation initiative. The contestants are looking at broader aspects of the Zambian economy and what the state of our economy is at the moment. We trimmed this number down from 10 to 3 at the moment. But before we got to 3, we had a top 5. We caught up with the top 5 and they'll be telling us exactly how this competition has helped them. This is the People's Budget. My name is Dingindava Jonah Puyoya and I'm your host. I'd like for us to start off with the contestants, and I want us to take a look at what they've had to say about the past 3 episodes, coming all the way from 10 into the top 5 and now the top 3.
Well, I would say the competition has been very educative and informative. You know, being a person that is coming from the healthy sector and now, should I say, diversifying, for lack of a better term, to maybe the economy or economic sector, I feel it's something that has really helped me understand how the nation operates when it comes to finances and also just the general planning itself.
Well, the competition has been exciting, tough. It's been a learning point for me. I've learned a lot from my fellow competitors and shared my knowledge that I have also on the People's Budget. Looking at the fact that I participated last year, I came out from the top 10 and I'm really excited.
It's been a tough season. You know, this has been totally different from the other previous competitions because I've seen brilliant minds actually and great deliveries from different tasks. So it's been wonderful and challenging to me.
Okay, the competition has been quite tough. I got to learn a lot about economics. I'm usually in the health field and it came as a challenge here and there, but I did manage to pick myself up. So yeah, it was actually good, insightful. So now, if the Minister of Finance was to bring about a budget, maybe late September, I would be really interested to hear what he has to say. So, yes.
It has been very insightful in that I've got to learn a lot of things about the economy, most things that I initially didn't know. And so it has been very insightful for me and it has brought growth in terms of knowledge.
Well, I think my biggest competition is, I would say, Francis. He's coming from a background of debate, same as me, and the way he articulates issues with the numbers and whatnot, I think is good. Yeah.
I see Victor as my biggest competition. Victor is very articulate, he shows that he's done his research, and overall I think is a very powerful contender.
Well, I would say each contestant is very good. They are all good in their own way. And I think we all brought in our A game in this competition. But I would say, okay, it's very difficult because we are all good. But of course, my name is Liranda Victor. Yeah, Victor, you know.
I can't really point out because I have not sat down to listen to individual presentations. So I can't really point out who is the biggest threat so far.
Francis is the biggest competition because I know him I've known him for a very long time. I know him as he's a good debater, and he's someone that reads up a lot of articles and stuff. So I'm very sure he's very deep with regards to knowing things. Yeah, so I think he's the toughest competitor.
What the advantage that I have against the other contestant is that I participated in last year's People's Budget, and I have a glimpse of the knowledge about it, and I'm the tobacco control champion, and leveraging on that, especially the budget also focuses on tobacco taxation and reform, so I think that's it.
I do a lot of research. I do a lot of research, so I think that brings to the table more than others.
Well, with all due respect, I think my preparation for me before a task gives me, I think, an advantage to the others. Though I don't know how they prepare, but the way I carry myself and conduct myself before coming to present is what I think is an advantage for me.
Well, when it comes to that, I feel, for me, I do much of my research. Yeah, and I'm one person who would spend nights and nights just to ensure that I have all the information on my fingertips. And, you know, it will take me 6 hours just to sharpen the axe before I get to chop the tree in 2 hours.
I would say I am more articulate compared to the other contestants. I say my thoughts more clearly and words more clearly, that's all.
Well, it's very difficult for me to point out that maybe this person is the weakest link, because the person that I thought is the strongest link, you know, the otherwise happened. So the person that I thought the weakest link is the weakest link, something else happened again. So it's very difficult to conclude to say this person is the weakest link. I think we are all good at what we are doing. Yeah.
The weakest link in the competition. Okay. It's really tough picking who the weakest link would be, given that I've never heard other people speak. But from the intros, I'd say everyone was the weakest link. Except for Victor, of course, who I think was the strongest.
Well, I think Isaac, yeah, because I think his presentation, I've heard from the interaction that we've had, the way he comes out on certain issues, I think for me, he's the biggest link.
Okay, so I think it's similar to who is the biggest threat. I can't really point out because we have differences in which we conduct ourselves when preparing for different tasks. So someone might not have presented well today, but did better in the previous task. So it all depends with what we're given to present. So I can't point out.
I would put myself as the weakest link because in as much as I do research and all that, I feel I'm not as good as the rest with regards to delivery of whatever we have. So I think I might be the weakest link.
Well, I would eliminate Victor.
I would eliminate Victor still, because Victor is too good. I would want him gone immediately.
Francis, so that I win the money.
I can't point out. I can't really tell because I think everyone is brilliant and excellent, so it's quite difficult for me.
These contestants have had the opportunity to learn about the Zambian budgeting process, but also about the state of the Zambian economy. Based on all the things that they've learned, they now have to present before each other. Throughout the competition, the contestants have had no opportunity to interact with each other during presentations. But at this stage, there will be a rebuttal. Each one of the three contestants will present before their contestants who will ask questions that must be responded to. Keep in mind that these are competitors and the questions might be really tough. Let's start off with the first contestant for today, who will present before the other contestants. This is Francis Changa.
Countrymen and women, Madam Speaker, my name is Sanga Francis, your Minister of Finance and National Planning. Madam, I beg to move that this House do resolve into Committee of Supply and Estimates of Revenue and Expenditure for the period 1st January 2025 to 31st December 2025. Madam Speaker, the economy was projected to grow by 4.4% in 2024 against 2.3% outcome with the recovery of mining and manufacturing industries. Madam Speaker, inflation rose to 15.5% as of August 2024 from 12.9% according to the last quarter of 2023. Madam, this was mainly due to the El Nino-induced drought, which has devastated crops, increased import costs, weakened the kwacha, and greatly reduced hydropower. Madam Speaker, it's against this backdrop that I present the 2025 national budget under the theme Domestic Resource Mobilization amidst the drought, energy crisis, and socio-economic reforms. Madam Speaker, as I present my budget, firstly, I'll outline the macroeconomic objectives of the fiscal year 2025. Madam Speaker, our target is to attain a real GDP growth of 4.8% and also reduce inflation to the target of 6 to 8% medium-term target band. Madam Speaker, I also want to limit domestic borrowing to not more than 1.7% of the GDP. Also want to reduce fiscal deficit to 3.5% of our GDP. The actual budget. Now, Madam Speaker, the government proposes to spend a total of 186.3 billion or 29.1% of GDP, and of this, 156.2 billion or 24.4% from domestic revenue, of which 125.3 billion tax revenue and 30.9 billion non-tax revenue. 5.1 billion kwacha in grants from cooperating partners and 25 billion as in financing, of which 11 billion will be from domestic and 14 billion will be from the external. Madam Speaker, under economic affairs, in order to support economic sectors and unlock growth potential, Madam Speaker, I propose to spend 45.8 billion or 24.6 billion of the budget, which will address key interventions in agriculture, fisheries, and livestock in order to target climate-smart agriculture methods and also resilient crops such as sorghum and millet. Madam Speaker, 4.6 billion kwacha will be allocated to the Comprehensive Agricultural Transformation Support Program, of which 1.6 billion kwacha will be for strategic food reserves and storage, 1.2 billion kwacha for farm blocks irrigation development, 956 million kwacha for animal disease control. Madam Speaker, in order to ensure local development and more resources to the community, I propose to increase the CDF allocation to 4.2 billion kwacha, which implies 33.6 million kwacha per constituency. Madam Speaker, in order to provide investment in renewable and clean energy, I propose to spend 6.7 billion kwacha in the energy sector from 1.1 billion kwacha. Madam Speaker, this is trying to tackle the micro, small, medium enterprises to empower them and also make sure that our Tazama pipeline is extended from 80% to at least 95%. Madam Speaker, in order to also revamp tourism and also offer job opportunities to local communities, I propose to spend 958.7 million kwacha on infrastructure to focus on development in the northern and southern circuits. Social protection. Madam Speaker, in order to uplift living standards of the vulnerable and provide life-saving and recovery assistance, I propose to spend 12.4 billion kwacha or 6.7% of the budget, of which 5.7 billion kwacha will be for social cash transfer, 2.8 billion kwacha will be cash for work with a total of 400 kwacha per month from 200 kwacha per month all the way to 31st December 2025. Madam Speaker, my revenue measures are as follows. Direct taxes. Madam Speaker, in order to cushion the cost of living amidst this rise in inflation among the challenges we're facing, I propose to increase the pay-as-you-earn threshold to 5,500 kwacha from the current 5,100 kwacha and also reduce the top rate to 36.5% from the current 37%. Madam Speaker, to also facilitate the challenges of people living with disability in society, I propose to increase the tax credit to 750 kwacha per month from 600 kwacha per month. Madam Speaker, with resumption and expansion of operations in our major mines, Madam Speaker, I propose for the deductibility and restructuring of the mineral royalty tax regime with respect to copper. Madam, this will provide for the lowest rate of 5.5 5.5% of our copper production. Madam Speaker, I beg to move on and I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It was quite a good presentation. I followed through the budget allocations. The question would be, in your budget allocation, I didn't hear exactly on the job creation. How do you intend to create jobs to curb the issues of poverty reduction? Because, and also not just poverty reduction, because then the data baseline of the people in Zambia, according to the World Health Organization and the UN, have classified Zambia as a fragile nation in the context that more young people use tobacco. In that case, because these young people are unemployed and they live below the poverty line, how do you intend to create jobs to alleviate the poverty levels? And also, what measures are you putting in to ensure that we adapt to climate resiliency and curb also financial illicit flows?
Okay, good. Okay, so starting with the first question, providing jobs. So this is where my CDF allocation is increasing, and I'm targeting youth empowerment and women. That is particularly why I'm trying to increase my CDF from the current 3.8 billion kwacha to 4.2 billion kwacha, because I want to empower the youths in order to at least make them do something. And also, this is also where empowering of the SMEs comes in, because these are young people that are running these businesses. So empowerment funds towards the SMEs, youths are innovative, so we're trying to do that. That is why I'm also spending a lot of a good allocation towards energy in order to empower youths, providing job opportunities, and also under tourism. We know that we want to revamp tourism, which died during the COVID-19 era. So this will provide job opportunities when infrastructure development is the center focus in the tourism sector. Yes.
Well, it was a great presentation. Yeah, I only have two questions. The first one being, how will your budget address the inflation rate? I think I didn't hear anything about that. Then also, amidst the drought crisis that we are currently facing, what are some of the things that your budget is aimed to address when it comes to energy? That as well, you didn't address it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So addressing energy, I'm sure that is the question I'm going to start with. So this is where I think I really didn't reach that part of addressing my revenue measures. So when talk about customs and excise taxes, so focusing on energy, this is where I'm proposing to remove. I'm proposing to a standard rate on all energy supplies on value-added tax. So in order to promote solar, thermal, and coal energy, so value-added tax are being standardized in these equipments once they're imported. Yes. And then talking about inflation. So our target, according to the medium-term budget, is to reduce inflation to a single-digit figure to at least 6 to 8%. According to the medium-term budget. So the only thing that we can do is to make our economy an exporting market in order for us to keep inflation, because we're dependent on importing. And again, once we import, we still have to pay tax. Or again, even if we zero rate some taxes on the imports that we bring in, we still have to because we're paying in dollars. So that is the problem. So the most important thing is that let us invest more in the manufacturing sector, focusing on local and domestic products. That is the only way that will make us deal with the inflation rate.
Since we've heard what Francis's plan is, and he's gotten the questions from his fellow contestants, the roles must now switch. It is now time for Victor Lilanda to present his ideas and provide a chance for his fellow contestants to challenge his ideas.
Greetings, countrymen and women. My name is Lilanda Victor, the Minister of Finance and National Planning, and I would like to present the 2025 national budget on the state of the economy in Zambia. Domestic resource mobilization amidst the drought, energy crisis, and socio-economic reforms is our theme. Madam Speaker, the government proposes to spend 200 billion kwacha, or 30.3% of GDP, which is 12.4% increase from this year's budget. To support this expenditure, 158 billion kwacha, or 23.9% of GDP will be domestic revenues, 3.8 billion kwacha, or 0.6% of GDP in grants from cooperating partners, and 37.4 billion kwacha, or 5.7% of GDP is financing. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, On drought, according to Plan International Zambia, the drought has severely impacted 9.8 million people across 84 out of 116 districts, with 6.6 million individuals in urgent need of support. Poor and vulnerable families are enduring hardships, with many living on just one meal a day. Countrymen and women, on energy and socio-economic crisis, it is not a secret that the power deficit has interrupted businesses and homes in all parts of the nation, particularly leading to low production and productivity in the major sectors of the economy. This has also led to inflation, an increase in unemployment amongst the youths, increase in theft and drug abuse. The challenges we face as a nation are significant, but they are not insurmountable. Madam Speaker, by focusing on efficient resource utilization such as investment of tax on tobacco, this budget aims to enhance our capacity to mitigate the effects of the drought, address the energy crisis, and implement necessary socio-economic reforms. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to mitigate this threat and preserve the integrity of our economy, the 2025 national budget aims to address the following: climate change and impact it has had on the agriculture sector, energy crisis and possible solutions, social and economic reforms, the tax reforms, and lastly, domestic resource mobilization. Distinguished citizens, we are aware of the impact that the climate change has had on the agriculture sector. It is for this reason that we have come up with the following measures to mitigate this crisis. Number one, implement funding opportunities for projects in irrigation, farming, and water harvesting projects. 2, implementation of insurance policy for agricultural produce to mitigate negative effects of drought during the farming season. Number 3, encourage farming of drought-resistant crops such as cassava. And 4, implement funding opportunities to support mass production of crops to ensure food security. Countrymen and women, energy is the major pillar of our country's economic development and critical enabler as it cuts across various socio-economic activities. Madam Speaker, in response to these challenges, our approach to domestic resource mobilization in the 2025 national budget will be multifaceted. Central to this strategy is the implementation of comprehensive tax reforms aimed at enhancing revenue generation, promoting fairness, and ensuring economic stability. Madam Speaker, in order to cushion the rise in the cost of living, I propose to increase the exempt threshold for pay as you earn to 6,000 from 5,100 and reduce the top rate to 35% from 37%, as well as adjusting the income tax bands accordingly. This adjustment will reduce the taxable income for lower and middle income earners, providing them with essential financial relief. On value-added tax, in addition, Madam Speaker, in addition to the recently launched Comprehensive Agriculture Transformation Support Program, the 2025 national budget will see to it that we provide tax deduction or exemptions for farmers and agribusinesses investing in climate-resilient agriculture techniques, drought-resistant crops, and irrigation infrastructure. This will encourage sustainable agricultural practices. On customs and excise duty, Madam Speaker, I propose an increase in excise duty for tobacco and tobacco products to more than 70% of the retail price. Madam Speaker, increasing excise taxes on tobacco products can raise fiscal revenues, address market failures, and replenish lost economic output from tobacco-related death and diseases, as well as externalization of avoidable health costs. As a nation, Madam Speaker, tobacco use costs Zambians 2.8 billion, which is 1.2% of our GDP, and according to a World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, each year tobacco kills over 7,100 Zambians under the age of 70, hence robbing our nation with valuable human resource and also imposing a significant economic burden through healthcare cost and loss of productivity. Madam Speaker, a healthy nation is indeed a wealthy nation. Tobacco taxation would help reduce its consumption and its health risk. This is evident from the countries such as Australia, Kenya, and South Africa. Madam Speaker, the government's emphasis on investing in renewable energy is evident through the strides made in offering tax credits and exemption for businesses investing in renewable energy projects, especially in solar and wind energy. This would attract private sector investment and reduce reliance on vulnerable energy sources. Madam Speaker, in order to broaden the tax base, I propose to introduce a tax on digital services target tech companies and online platforms in Zambia. I thank you.
Okay, so that was a well-articulated presentation and well-explained expenditure and of course revenue. But I think the only thing I didn't get was the actual allocations to energy to mitigate our crisis. That is number one. And then also tackling the comprehensive agricultural transformation support program in agriculture. So like to mitigate the current drought, like how much of the budget are you allocating to these two sectors to mitigate our current crisis?
All right, thank you for that question. So The first one is allocation to the energy sector in order to mitigate the energy crisis. So as a government, we intend to increase the allocation to 37 billion kwacha towards the energy sector, because we have seen that currently we cannot rely on hydro, and it has been failing us of late. So as a government, we are aiming to ensure that we have a number of investors come into the country and also invest into maybe alternative form of energies. And whenever we're talking about energy, it's not only maybe the source of maybe power. We should also look at things to do with crude oil. That's also part of the energy sector. So there are a number of things that we are looking at, but that's the amount that I'm allocating to the energy sector. Then the second question was about agriculture, the comprehensive agriculture transformation project. So this is a project that recently started this year, and the budget is aimed to address on how we are going to continue on the same program. So number one, I think I talked about investing in agricultural crops that are drought resistant. Then we also spoke about, I think one of the things that I was about to talk is investment in irrigation systems. So I think there are a number of things that the Comprehensive Agriculture Transformation Program is aimed to address at. I hope I've answered the question. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. It was well articulated. However, I wanted to find out, you mentioned that 6.6 million people live under the poverty line with the current drought and energy crisis. I would want to find out, you mentioned that the budget is going to mainly be financed through domestic resource mobilization, through revenue. How then do you intend to raise this revenue if the majority of the people are living below the poverty line? And how do you ensure to keep financial illicit flows being lost due to the tobacco consumption, which you mentioned that is 2.8 billion?
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So how do we intend to
generate the revenue with the 6.6 million living under the poverty line, and how do you intend to mitigate the 2.8 billion loss in the tobacco taxation?
Okay, so one of the things that the budget is aimed to address is the tax reforms. So, and I think I mentioned about tobacco taxation, which we really want to implement come next year. And the other thing that I would like to talk about is that we have 6,000 licensed mines, of which only 6 of them are tax compliant. So if we are able to look into it and maybe ensure that there's no tax exemptions through maybe ZRA, I think we should be able to raise a lot of money in order to finance our budget. And the second question, how are we able to keep financial illicit, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that we intend to do, I think I've mentioned to say, we aim to strengthen the fiscal avenues, and what we want to do is that we really want to ensure that through ZRA we come up with maybe measures that are going to ensure that there's constant checkpoints at each and every point. Yeah, that's what we really want to ensure.
The final contestant to take on this challenge will be Emmanuel Sakala. He's participated in all of his other contestants' rebuttal, and it is now time for them to change the positions.
Greetings, countrymen, women, and the youths. I answer to the name Emmanuel Sakala Jr., Minister of Finance and National Planning. As a bearer of a message from the Republican President, the 2025 national budget emphasizes on domestic resource mobilization through effective tax reforms, strategic spending, and prudent debt management to foster economic resiliency aimed at ongoing challenges by focusing on sustainable growth and value addition and reduce external dependency on foreign aid or debt. Madam Speaker, it is against this background that I lay the 2025 national budget. The tax reforms. I recommend the tax reforms, progressive tax systems to introduce high tax rates from the high income brackets while providing relief to the low income earnings to provide fair and increase compliancy. Value added tax, VAT. Madam Speaker, we improved the value-added tax collection by reducing exemption and enhanced digital monetary systems. Property tax, Madam Speaker, we strengthen property tax to enforce, to generate local revenue and reduce dependency on the central government transfers. Madam Speaker, we introduced a green tax on carbon emission and environmental harmful practices to support climate resiliency and generate new revenue. With this being said, Madam Speaker, economic context. Madam Speaker, this budget is estimated to cost over 200 billion Zambian kwacha, reflecting the 2.5% from the current 177.9 billion kwacha. Economic context of this, Madam Speaker, Zambia faces economic challenges and crisis. This is included due to the drought and debt impact that we have in the agriculture sector and the energy crisis that we have, limiting industry output. Madam Speaker, there's the urgent need for socio-economic reforms as well. The current GDP growth is at 4.72%. Madam Speaker, with a target of the increased GDP to 5.0% in 2025. Public debt ratio, Madam Speaker, is at 90%. Our goal is to reduce it to 80% by the end of the year 2025. Revenue generation system and strategies. Madam Speaker, we have domestic revenue mobilization focusing on increasing tax revenue from the current 114 billion to 128 billion, represented by 64% of the total revenue. By this, Madam Speaker, we'll broaden the tax base and improve compliance and reduce illicit financial flows by 5 billion. Madam Speaker, non-tax revenue, the target is 32 billion, represented by 16% of the total. By enhancing government systems and improving the performance of state-owned enterprises, Madam Speaker, will be able to achieve this. Debt servicing will allocate 55 billion, represented by 27.5%, towards debt servicing while reducing on current debt and the debt burden. With this being said, Madam Speaker, key expenditure priorities will prioritize agriculture and food security. This is in line with the 8th National Development Plan. We'll allocate 15 billion, represented by 7.5%, to mitigate the drought impact, irrigation system infrastructure, and crop diversification to ensure food security. Madam Speaker, energy sector will invest 20 billion in the energy sector. This is represented by 10% in the renewable energy to expand the power grid and ensure that we eradicate the power crisis. Madam Speaker, with this background of a budget, Zambia's national budget, Madam Speaker, is emphasizing on domestic resource mobilization through effective tax reforms, strategic spending, and prudent debt management to foster economic resiliency aimed at the ongoing challenges, focusing on sustainable growth and value addition, Madam Speaker, and reduce dependency on the central government transferring. With this, I submit. Thank you.
All right. I think that was a great presentation, but I would like to find out how your budget will mitigate the energy crisis, because the only thing that you spoke about was allocating 20 billion kwacha towards the grid line. Yeah, so I would like to find out on that. Then I think the other thing that your budget hasn't addressed is the depreciating kwacha. Yeah, what measures are you going to put in? Yeah, so I think basically those are the questions that I have.
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. So I mentioned on the power sector that we ensure that we diversify. The reason why we are allocating the 20 billion, it has actually been increased from the previous 15 billion. This is to ensure that we diversify the energy sector by ensuring that we go to the other means of production of energy, such as solar, wind, and as well leveraging on the hydro that we already have. And also talking on the depreciation of the kwacha, you would agree with me that the kwacha has depreciated due to the current GDP growth, which is at 4.72%. But in the current budget, with this investment that we are having and through domestic resource mobilization, we are seeing the kwacha regaining strength by keeping financial illicit flows and ensuring that we leverage on the tax and revenue and value addition, like I said, in the agriculture sector and the energy sector and the mining sector as well. Thank you.
All right, so wonderful presentation. that was. So on tax reforms, you talked about increasing income earnings. So I didn't really get by how much are you planning on increasing the income earnings. And then secondly, is you talked about the total expenditure of over 200 billion. So I wanted to find out with our GDP growth of 2.3%, how do you intend to raise this over 200 billion to finance the budget?
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, this 200 billion will be raised through revenue. This is domestic revenue, non-tax revenue, and also from the grants and donor support represented in the budget, where domestic revenue is at 65%, non-tax revenue is at 16%, and grants is at 10%, and also from external borrowing, we have 4%. So this will help us finance this budget. And the total, when you sum up the percentages, is giving us the 200 billion Zambian kwacha. And also with the investment that we're making in the tax reforms that we have, and also in the value addition of the minerals and the agriculture sector, we are certain that we'll be able to generate such revenue.
All three contestants now tell us what their brilliant ideas, or maybe not so brilliant ideas, are. It is up to you, the people, to decide. But the judges will finally make their decisions on who has the best budget for 2025 in the grand finale, episode 5 of the People's Budget. My name is Dingindava Jonah Buyoya. I'll see you at the finale.